Hi everybody, happy Tuesday. So we're back to a regularly scheduled program after last week, and I wanted to continue talking about what my post-op for my first cataract surgery has been like. It's interesting. I know I've gotten emotional several times over our first season together, discussing what it was like living my chronic migraine life and with this chronic migraine brain of mine. And I've gotten emotional, I've gotten choked up, sort of reliving pain and thinking of things that I hadn't even thought of at the time, because when you're struggling to survive that kind of pain, you don't have time to process it a whole lot or think about it because it's just overwhelming. Your pain, your struggle is just a second-to-second thing, and nothing else can really matter. You can't thrive exactly. So while I've gotten emotional thinking about things that I hadn't thought about before, this season we've been talking about my surgery and stuff, and it's so raw because it's happening sort of almost exactly in real time from when it happens to me till I discuss it with you guys. And it's emotional on a whole different level. I find myself now, as things happen to me, in particular this conversation we're about to have, as it's happening, thinking about how will I ever explain this or communicate this properly. And it's something I worried about a whole lot with this episode. I've been thinking about it constantly. And I've taken notes, I've done all these things, but I don't know that I'll ever communicate it properly or get every thought out that I want, and that's okay. You might ask them why share it if it's so raw and if it's so close to home. And it really never occurred to me not to share it, because for me, it's a way of truly letting it go, to speak it, and also it might help somebody else. You know, life is difficult, whether your challenge is big or small or just feels big. We need to be able to communicate what we're really feeling. And so that's why sure, I could have kept this close to home and close to the vest, but it's not really my style. I'm not the kind of girl that can hold things in that I'm thinking about over and over again. I have to really speak it out loud to the person, to whatever, in order to really move past it. So that's what I'm hoping this video does for me, and maybe you out there. So it's been about 4 weeks since I had my right eye cataract surgery. And as you saw from episode 5 of this year, it went really well. But what I've learned is that what it means to be well physically is not the same as what it means to be well mentally or emotionally. So when last we spoke, I had just come home from my first pre-op visit, which is the very next day after surgery, to get the bandages off and to look around the eye and a vision test and all that kind of stuff. I was exasperatedly happy, like high as a kite. It was all of the adrenaline and all of the real relief of having it over. This thing that I had been building up for a year and a half, knowing I had to have, and then it's got closer, and all the little things that, come up that you have to deal with. It was over, and it went well, and I was just relaxed. I hadn't really slept that week. I was a travesty. So I came home. I had surgery on a Thursday evening. Friday, by late afternoon, I was just happy as a clam. You would have thought I won the lottery. I was watching TV, doing my drops. As per doctor's orders, you're not allowed to lift or bend down for the first week. It's just really about the drops and not touching your eye and a whole other set of little rules. So, aces. I wasn't in any pain, which always seems to be a big question that I've been getting lately. I appreciate that. No, my pain, as you will find out, was not physical. My eye that first day was very irritated. It was a little gooey, because I guess that's what the drops are also helping flush out whatever they put into your eye during surgery. And so trying not to touch it actually was a real challenge. But other than that, I was fine. Something changed very quickly by the next day. I mean, I had realized this since the bandage had come off, but I guess I thought it would subside, and it hadn't even been 24 hours since surgery, since I saw the doctor. So, I wasn't really thinking about it or worried about what was coming next. But by Saturday, I had the first of what I would call really tense nervous breakdowns. And now I want to be very clear that I use the term nervous breakdown, and while I'm being slightly sarcastic, I am also being very serious. The emotions and the intensity of them during, I guess, 2 days post-op till about 10 days post-op were real. They were nothing like I've ever experienced before. I have gone through some things in my life, but this emotional stuff just came out of left field, sort of. Well, not left field, but it was hard for me, and expressing it was hard for me, and getting what I needed back was hard for me, as you'll see. So Saturday comes around, and I get up, I'm moving about my house. Now, I don't live alone, so I was very fortunate in that way that I had help if I needed it, but I didn't really need help the way that I thought I would need help. So I had been warned ahead of time that I would have problems with depth perception maybe, or like seeing halos or all of these other things. I didn't have any of that. Like, as you can see, I have stairs behind me. I was worried about stairs or like reaching for a glass. None of that was a problem. So I thought, okay, they just had to warn you, and that's fine. I'm a girl who wants information. I'm a girl that likes sharing information. So, all right, fine. But the problem actually was a matter of focusing and maybe a little bit of perception, but not quite the way that I understood it to be. So from the moment I took the bandages off, till now, even though I'm gearing up for my next eye surgery very soon, I see blurriness. I don't know how to explain it except that I feel like my good eye can see the blurriness on the outside of my left eye, which I know probably doesn't make much sense. And I always look at my eyes because I feel like if I looked at this eye in the mirror, the so-called bad eye, I should see like a film over it. And as you can see, there's no film. They look identical on the outside. It's a kind of haziness. Now, it's the haziness that I felt before I had surgery on my corrected eye. But because my vision is so different, the left eye is over 20/100 and the good eye is now 20/25. I knew focusing would be a problem. I knew reading and writing would be a problem because I have different vision. And everybody kept telling me that I'll get adjusted to it. Even the doctor said it at first. But I think that's what upset me initially, too, is that I always know my body. And I always know better than doctors what's going to happen to it. I've had that experience with my brain and my head and side effects of drugs. I just know myself. I'm very in tune with my body. And I knew it wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't going to get right until I had surgery a month later. So I became very emotional that first day because everything I looked at, even the TV, was blurrier, and in some ways worse than when I had started before. Before, things were hazy, glare was a problem, certain lighting was a problem, reading was a problem, but my overall looking out into the world wasn't a problem. I also could see my phone clearly. I couldn't really see my phone on Friday, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. However, come Saturday, when you try to put your pieces of your life back together, right, the surgery's over, that kind of stuff, you're going to live in your real space now, I couldn't see it at all. I tried pulling it back a little further, and sometimes that helped, but I kept doing the one eye, good eye, bad eye thing, and that would come to be a defining moment. So I was a combination of real fear and emotion and knowing that I had to go through this all over again instantly. And as you learned last time, the surgery process itself was easy, but it was that day that was really shitty and poorly planned on their part and was emotionally draining. And now I know I have to go through that all again. Sure, circumstances might be different, but I have no way of ensuring that. And, people always say, now you know what to expect. And in this instance, that was almost a negative. I had several emotional breakdowns about how can I stay like this. 4 weeks, a month, it might not sound like a long time to you, but how long is a long time when everything you look at is messed up? Let's not also forget that I have a migraine brain who doesn't like to be annoyed and Focusing is really hard, and she was in a lot of pain that week. And it was just too much of an adjustment. Sure, over the next few days, it got slightly better, or I got used to it. But it's still not good. It's still not comfortable. I started having these sessions. I had about, 4 or 5 real breakdowns that week. And I'm not talking, now I know there's not really a lot of emotion in my voice, but I think it's because I got it out. It's that, not like, oh, I was just crying. I mean, sobbing. Uncontrollably. I'm not even positive how I stopped crying for one long enough to have the next. I was worried that I was going to sob my cataract lens, my brand new lens, right out of my eyeball. Thankfully, that didn't happen, so that's good to know. But just couldn't contain myself. It was all the little things adding up. Now I have to look at this, like to even stare at somebody's face. I couldn't really make the outline of their face out clearly. I couldn't do any of the things that made me me. Small things, like I'm a girl that washes her face in the shower, splash water on your face. Not allowed to do it. So now I was reduced for the first 2 weeks to washing my face with a wash rag outside of the shower, which, granted, is not a travesty, but it pulled a piece of me off the list. Next, showering in general was a pain in the ass because I was so afraid of getting water into that side of my face. I have one of those showers that come apart, so like you have the handle, so to wet yourself and then wash yourself and then wet yourself again, it feels like I was getting like, I might as well have been in a bed in a hospital and getting washed with a washcloth. It doesn't feel the same way as it feels. I love to stick my head under the shower head and just feel all that water and pressure on the back of my neck. I wasn't able to do that. I realized I hated getting dressed so much because I was even having trouble with certain colors of my bra to see the clasp because I couldn't see up close. Another way it's plucked out. Now I can't use my phone. So this becomes an interesting thing. I feel like technology and phones, and we're way too dependent on that stuff. I know that. But when you have nothing else to do, what do? What's the first thing that you do in the morning? Don't tell me it's not check Instagram. Don't tell me it's not to check your email or your text messages or whatever you may have missed over the night, through the night. It's our way of communicating. And this became a really hard problem for me. I guess because people don't know how much I was suffering. And even if they did, I didn't hear from them. The people that I thought were my people, I didn't hear from them. Those first few days, my phone dinged all day long because I was getting text messages and I couldn't respond to them. I once a day would hand my mother my phone. She would read me things people wrote. She would respond on her own phone and say, Donna can't text. You can give her a call. She's fine, whatever. Still got text messages from those very same people. Every time my phone dinged, it was a reminder that I couldn't look at it. Now, while they were all well wishes and positive things, and before surgery, I had a ton of texts and phone calls and stuff, and that was great. Everybody was telling me how strong I was. I've got this. It was sweet, but it was also inconsiderate. After you've been told that I can't communicate on my phone, that I'm frustrated, that I'm having a hard time, why didn't you pick up the phone and call? I don't understand that. I will never understand that. I've realized, and I've known this for some time, that I'm a keener observer of people's pain and compassion and when they're in need of it. And I dole so much of it out with small tests, with big tests, with small gestures, with big gestures, that I expect it back. I'm expecting me from other people. And that's not a thing. Should be, but it's not. And of course, I don't do it so that when I want or need someone, they're there. It's just, should sort of go without saying. And I'm still really hurt and frustrated about that kind of stuff with several people in specific that I still haven't heard from. And it's difficult. However, there were a few phone calls from people that I never expected to hear from because they knew I couldn't see my texts and thought, let's pick up the phone and see how Donna's doing. And that was really a breath of fresh air. It was helpful. It was distracting, because people tell you not to think about it, but it's everything I look at I can see is difficult. So how do you not think about it? Plus, all of the things that make me me, the things I do on a day-to-day basis, I can no longer do. So aside from the phone, there are stupid things like laundry and bending down when you drop something. There are the important things to me, like cooking and being in the kitchen. That is something that is vital to my life, something I love to do. I do all day long, every day on a good day, and that was taken away. The obvious thing, reading and writing. I'm a blogger, I'm a writer. I hadn't been able to see books for a long time, so that may not have been as big of a deal to me. But People Magazine, who have very, very eye-friendly font, God bless those folks, I have a stack of them waiting for me. They'll sit, it's not a big deal. The problem with all of this is really the triggering. The stack of People Magazine, nowhere near as high as the stack of New York Times I used to have sitting in my dining room. I wouldn't be able to read or have the time because of the pain I was in my head. And I enjoyed that. I am old school. I enjoy feeling the paper. I wanted to see it. And I refused to throw them out without going through them because A, I loved it, and B, it's expensive. And there would be days when I finally got well enough, whatever that means, and I would have a literal shopping bag pulled to my couch with a giant cup of coffee and just start going through them. My mother would joke that at the time we had a dog and he was white. He would always come and sit next to me while I read my New York Times. And she would yell at me not to touch the dog because my hands were that black from the ink, because there were that many newspapers. Also, it's coming back. The other thing is the isolation. All brought me back to being home alone, as I then was after the first few days, because I had surgery on a weekend. Everybody has to go back to work. Everybody has to go back to their lives. And while I get that, and I didn't expect anybody to stay home, I didn't really need help. The things that I couldn't reach that I wanted access to, my mother was wonderful. She laid all out ahead of time for me, even prepared the coffee ahead of time. She just had to hit a button. All that kind of stuff was fine. I could reach mostly everything I needed. I had prepared myself well, so I had taken out clothes I wanted and certain things that I couldn't bend down to get for that first week. And I was mostly fine. Physically. But even though you don't need somebody to be around you, you want them to. That's what I felt a lot of the time when I was home with really bad migraines. If anybody had stayed with me as much as I was home, they would be unemployed also. I was home, I went to work maybe about 200 days a year, if that, on a good year. And so I knew people had to leave. And in some ways, it's ironic that now I was upset being home alone, but I was okay to function. There were so many times when I felt like somebody shouldn't have left me, but I knew they had to, so I never said anything. But pain is scary. And I got really good at talking to myself through it. I'm going to get up, I'm going to get the pill, I'm going to get the pill, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'm going to drag myself downstairs, I'm going to pour myself a cup of tea, I'm going to grab crackers so I have something to eat with all the pills and just get to the couch, This was like that in the sense that now I'm alone. And sure, while my head was raging, I couldn't text, or I didn't want to be bothered on Facebook or any of the nonsense. But I could. I could also call for help. Those first few days, I couldn't even make a phone call because I couldn't see my phone. I couldn't get help if I needed it. Sure, I have Alexa and all this other nonsense and technology, and I would have figured it out. It wouldn't have been life-threatening. But it felt scary. And it felt sucky. And I think my biggest problem was that I needed so much more love and support that I thought that I could handle, even though it wasn't warranted. I'm a strong person. I'm an independent person. I like to do things by myself. I like to be by myself. In fact, if I'm not by myself a certain amount of the time during the day, during the week, I'm cranky. I need space. I need physical space from the world because all that's happening in here is fantastic. My writer's migraine mind never stops. I'm an insomniac half of the time. And I'm good. I like myself. I like being with myself. I've taken myself all over this world by myself. Traveled internationally by myself. Aces. I'm good company. I'd rather be alone with myself than with someone that's ruining my time, that's miserable. But this was an instance where I couldn't be by myself because it was just too much. The intensity of my upset was too much. And I didn't feel ultimately that it was warranted, right? I had the simple surgery. I didn't even have to stay in the hospital. Short surgery, but you're not really being put out for it. There are all these little rules, but it's not really any big whoop. That's the message I got from the world. And that's what bothered me a lot as I was preparing for it. It's no big deal. Everybody does it. Well, you know what? Just because everybody does it, it's a big deal. Lots of people get double mastectomies. That's a fucking huge deal. I am by no way in comparing my situation to that. God forbid, knocking on wood as we speak. That's a fucking travesty. You should get a parade. You should get a holiday named after you. It's a horror that I wish on no one, even my worst enemies. But this was a big deal to me. It was still my experience. It was still my surgery. And though it went well and I had nothing to complain about, I was devastated. I was devastated with what I was left with. I was devastated that my vision was worse than when I started. I knew it would probably get better, but here I sit. And because I haven't had surgery on the left eye yet, and then, I won't know until that's done if I need glasses, if I need what to get to the next step. So there's still some waiting to be done. I don't feel as anxious as I do about that part because I'm getting closer to it, I suppose. But what ended up happening here was I fell completely apart. That car honk is driving me crazy, but it's the first nice day we're having here in Brooklyn, and I need to open the windows. By a week goes by, and it's the following Friday, and it is my godchild's baby shower coming up, and I'm going to need to go on Amazon with my mom to finally decide what we are going to purchase. And the bow breaks. She knows I can't see, and so she's like, I'll just read the list off to you. But it snaps me. It was the final straw. I've been crying about this for so long and so much that I thought I had hit the bottom. But when you're still feeling whatever the emotion is and you haven't expressed it fully, you let some of the pressure out and then you plug it back up, right? You let some of the pressure out and you plug it back up. Finally, the plug went flying. It just bursted. There was nothing left I could hold. I would sob and then I would try to compose myself and then push it away, but there was nothing to push away. It was literally right in front of my face. And so I just lost it. I mean, big time lost it. I might have cried for an hour, or it felt like an hour, to the point where there are no more tears left. You're just this primal, guttural scream. That's what I was doing. As I did it, I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed that this very independent and strong person was breaking. I had confirmation I was strong. I had all those text messages before my surgery. I consider myself an emotionally strong person and that I'm always there for other people because I have such extra strength to give under pressure and hard times. And while I could still do it for myself, I guess, if I had rallied, and I had rallied many times, but I was done with that. They say check on your strong friends because even strong people need help. And that's me. I'm your strong friend. But I needed help. And I felt selfish for asking. I felt bad that I needed it. But I needed much more affection and love and support than I was getting and that I thought that I would need after the surgery. That's the interesting part to me. When I've tried to consolidate and rack my brain around what was happening and what's been happening and understanding what I was feeling because I couldn't understand it, But what I had to really just come to peace with and to terms with was the quality of love and whatever that I needed didn't have to be equal to the hardness of my circumstance. I had to make peace with that because in admitting how much I was struggling, there was strength in that. It wasn't weakness. But I finally got myself to calm down, and I'm not really positive. I feel like I that day I cried, and it just sort of, kept coming out a little bit at a time. I finally felt relief, true relief. I'd finally scraped to the bottom of my barrel and gotten every last little sad, angry, frustrated thing out. And it felt fantastic, even though I felt like I got hit by a fucking bus. I felt like my eyes were going to be black and swollen. How my head didn't react to that, I'll never know. God bless her. The old world's been through a lot. And I just crumbled. Thank God for my mother, because as with most things in my life, I don't know what I would do without her. She's always been my basis for love and what really selflessness looks like. And, it's a cliche. She's my best friend, but she is. We travel together. We blogged together, she likes to say. Everything in my life I do with her and because of her. And that needs to be said. I love you, Mom. After I really got through with that, I'm remembering now, even my nails are horrific. I had this very light colored polish on my hands, and I couldn't even see my hands to get it off. I couldn't see the food in front of my face. I had a plate, Lots of things. That night, late at night, I couldn't sleep, which is usual for me in general, but also because I've been sleeping and laying on the couch all day on my bed. What was I tired from? Couldn't go to the gym, couldn't do anything for the first week. I decided to make a list. So writing is also a struggle for me because I guess the depth perception and the focusing and the concentrating thing. My handwriting is atrocious anyway, but this makes it worse. I took out a pad and paper and decided I wasn't going to live in my problem anymore. That I'd fully had a pity party for myself. I think that's also a bad phrase because that's what I felt like I was doing, but I wasn't. I was expressing myself. And while if you had cataract surgery, you might not go through what I did, you also haven't had the life that I've had. And so that's okay. I made a list of the things that I could do with help over the next week so that I felt like I was participating in life. I have this treasure box that I got as a blog gift many years ago, my blog's birthday, and I keep all little special mementos from my travels, from my blog, from my life in there, and it was to capacity, which a blessing. But I needed to go through it and file it and fix it, and so I couldn't carry it. My mother carried it down the stairs, then had to help me read through some of the things I had saved because I couldn't see them. Also annoying, but I had to let it go at that point a little bit. And I went through that. I had a friend over with her 2 small children just to make me laugh and smile. Although that was problematic because kids like to be outside and play, and I had to wear these special glasses. Being in the sun was bad for my eye. God forbid something flew into my eye. And I really didn't feel that great. I had scraped the bottom of my barrel of pain, but I was raw. I don't feel as raw now, but it still feels very close. I was just fragile, emotionally fragile. What else was on the list? Stupid things to watch on Netflix, or, there's a kitchen cabinet that I've been dying to clean out. I needed help, so my father helped me, reorganize things. I started cooking again. I needed help a lot in the beginning, chopping and stuff. I've gotten a little bit better at it now, more comfortable, I should say, but my vision is still not perfect. The next big thing was that next day, the Saturday, so this is 9 days post-op. My mother, after I have this final breakdown, was like, you have to get out of the house. Now, like I said, I'm a homebody. I'm good by myself, and I'm good at being home. I work from home because I'm a writer, so I can go days without leaving my house. Unless I'm going to the gym or a store, there's really nothing for me to do during the week, and that's fine, usually. But while I was able to physically leave the house, no one told me I couldn't just because I had eye surgery. I didn't feel like it. And the other thing is, when I leave my house, I take a lot of pictures. I'm a blogger, right? I'm on social media. I'm doing things. So to use my camera was awkward on my phone. And that bothered me, devastated me. Taking pictures is a huge part of who I am. I also was afraid what my vision would be like out in the world. I knew it would be worse maybe or disorienting. And although I wouldn't be alone, I didn't want to really deal with it. But she forced me and I forced me. And that night I spent looking up on my blog as I use my annual to-do list. I live by it. Sure, I had to screenshot it and then blow it up and then hold it far away. And I couldn't really double check some of the information I needed to on the line. I had to leave that for my mother for when she woke up. But I did it, and I decided to go someplace from the best thing I ever ate that was in Brooklyn. Had lunch. We went for coffee. It wasn't the most ideal experience being outside, but I had fun. And that's what I had forgotten. My life should be about fun. And while no one's life is fun 24 hours a day on any given day, there should be that hope, that fun, that lightness that I wasn't feeling. I was bogged down in too much of what I couldn't do and what I wasn't liking till explore. I was wearing a night guard at night to cover my eye because they're worried you're going to rub it for the first week and all these other things. And every time I had to do something or think about my eye, it just infuriated me. Having to do 3 kinds of drops 4 times a day irritated me because it reminded me of when I had to take pills 4 times a day. Now, of course, this was going to taper off, but I was living too much in it. It was too much. I needed to really be and see, for lack of a better word, the end of the tunnel of this one part of my experience. And so going out really did a number on me. I flipped the switch. I got to go to my favorite fruit stand and pick out vegetables, which is something I live for as a cook. And so, I'm a girl that's easily pleased. I like small things and the things that I know will make me happy, and that made me happy. And that sort of really flipped the switch for me of going from, it was a combination of getting my pain really out and vocalizing it and accepting it and verbalizing it and then moving in towards this next phase. By the time I went for my 2-week post-op, I was significantly better. I had found this little sweet spot, especially after the doctor told me I can get over-the-counter reading glasses just to help the eye, to see my phone, to do stupid things. I don't need it on the computer, but I still haven't really blogged or done anything like that because it aggravates my head and aggravates my eyes, and it's a whole thing. The glasses, I will show you, are interesting. But because my left eye doesn't actually need it for vision, I try not to wear them too much, and it is only for my phone. I could damage the new eye lens if I overuse it, so I'm not. I try not to still be on my phone a ton, but I'm able to post, I'm able to do some things and feel like a person, which is always nice. And so we'll see what happens afterwards. It's still not a perfect answer, but it's something, and that really, really helped feel like there was something I could do. Now, the glasses don't work for every scenario because I don't really need them for vision, but because the vision's so different, it's helpful. It's really, really helpful. I'll be having eye surgery really soon, and I feel calm. I sort of feel like it's happening, but it's not happening, and the anxiety's gone. Of course, I want it to go well. Of course, I hope that day isn't a shit show and I'm not waiting for hours and hours like last time to have surgery. But it'll be what it'll be. I've downloaded some podcasts. I'm bringing my earbuds. I did that last time, but I was in such a high emotional state of attention that I couldn't get myself to relax long enough to do any of that. I hope I sleep the night before, but I probably won't. I'm going to take some melatonin. I'm going to do all the things. I know what advice to listen to from the doctors and not to ahead of time, what the things I'm going to do. And, I'm most likely not having surgery till late afternoon, so I'm going to have something small for breakfast because I was told last time that I could have, and I didn't know that ahead of time. I'm not going to drink a ton of water, but I'm not being put under anesthesia, so I'm going to still do a little things to make my stomach and my head happier that day. And then hopefully it will be over. Hopefully after surgery, I have post-op immediately after, and then about a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And then hopefully I am done with this process. And there will be literally light and vision at the end of my tunnel. So that's what it's been like to be me for the last couple of weeks. And I found that little sweet spot of peace and functioning, and now my eye... it just really needs surgery. It's just so bad. It's really hard to be out in the sun because between the difference in my vision and the glare problem I still have in the eye that hasn't been fixed, it's a misery. So I'm really looking forward to that to be over. So that's that for now. Wish me well. I wish you well. And hopefully the next time we talk, I will be in a much better place. I know I'll be in a better place emotionally, and I'm hoping for it now physically. So until next time, guys.